Way down in Old Louisville, there's a tree folks around here don't take lightly. Gnarled up and twisted like something out of a nightmare, they call it the witch tree. Some say it's cursed, others reckon it's holding powers older than these hills. One thing's for sure, though. Disrespect this old tree, and you'll find yourself on the wrong side of fate. Folks have been saying for years, them that mess with it don't walk away unscathed. So what's the real tale behind this spooky old tree? Grab a seat, 'cause we're about to dig deep into the strange history of the witch tree of Old Louisville. Well, howdy there, folks. Welcome back to the Scary Stories from Kentucky podcast playlist, right here on the Kentucky Melody YouTube channel. We're mighty pleased to have you joining us today. Hope y'all are doing just fine, but before we dive into today's story, I just want to remind y'all, if you're enjoying these here stories, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a heap and make sure you won't miss a single spooky tale we got coming your way. So let me tell you about one of the most mysterious and downright spooky tales to ever come out of Old Louisville. This here story's about the witch's tree, a twisted, gnarled old maple that's been standing there longer than most can remember. Now, you see, back in the late 1800s, Louisville was a city on the rise, growing fast with new folks settling in every day, building homes and businesses and turning the old town into a bustling hub of activity. But even with all that progress, there was something dark and strange lurking in the shadows of the city. There was talk about a group of women, witches some folks called them, who made their home right in the heart of Old Louisville. These women weren't the kind to wear pointy hats or ride broomsticks, no sir. They were just regular-looking folk, but they had knowledge of things most people didn't, and that made them feared and respected. Now, at the corner of 6th and Park Avenue, there stood a tree, big, old, and twisted, with branches that reached out like the long fingers of an ancient crone. It was said that these women, these witches, would gather under that tree on the darkest nights of the month, when the moon was just a sliver in the sky. They'd light candles, chant incantations, and perform rituals passed down through generations. That tree, they believed, was a powerful place, a spot where the veil between our world and the next was thin as gossamer. Folks in the neighborhood knew better than to go near that tree after dark. They'd whisper amongst themselves about the strange sounds they heard on those nights, low murmurs carried on the wind, shadows moving where none should be. And though no one could ever prove it, there was a feeling in the air, a heaviness that pressed down on you when you walked by that old tree. It was a place of power, a place of fear, and a place where the witches held sway over things most folks didn't dare to understand. That old tree wasn't just any tree. It was the heart of their rituals, a symbol of their connection to the old ways, to the magic that ran deep in the earth. And in a time when the line between superstition and reality was as blurry as a foggy holler, that tree became the center of one of the most infamous stories to ever come out of Kentucky. So, sit tight and listen close, 'cause this here's where our tale truly begins. Now, round about 1889, the city was a-fixin' to celebrate May Day with a grand old maypole right there in Old Louisville. The city folks, in all their wisdom, decided they'd chop down that witch's tree to use for their pole. They figured a tree's a tree, and what better use for it than to bring folks together for some merrymaking. Well, when the witches got wind of this, they was madder than a hornet's nest. They begged and pleaded with the city officials, warning them that cutting down that tree would bring about a curse. But the city folks, they was too busy with their highfalutin plans to pay heed to a bunch of women folk talking about curses and such. So, they went ahead and chopped down that tree, and let me tell you, them witches didn't take it kindly. They gathered one last time at the stump of their sacred tree, and with a fury born of betrayal, they cast a curse on the city. They said the winds would howl, the sky would darken, and the people of Louisville would pay for their arrogance. Now, let me tell you, it weren't long after that old tree was felled that the skies over Louisville started to darken, and folks began to feel a deep unease settling over the city. It was March 27, 1890, and a day that started off with nothing more than a light breeze soon turned into something straight out of a nightmare. The clouds rolled in, thick and black as coal, and the air grew heavy, with a stillness that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Old-timers said they'd never seen the sky look so angry, like it was boiling with some unholy rage. Then, out of nowhere, the wind picked up, screaming and howling like a pack of banshees let loose from the hollers. The tornado hit with a fury that no one had ever seen before, a wrath that seemed almost unnatural, like the hand of something dark and vengeful was at work. It tore through the heart of Louisville, ripping up homes, flattening buildings, and snapping trees like they was toothpicks. The storm cut a path of destruction nearly 10 miles long and a quarter-mile wide, leaving nothing but ruin in its wake. The folks who lived through it said the winds weren't just strong. They were alive, screaming and wailing as they twisted and churned. The sound was something otherworldly, like the very earth was crying out in pain. Windows shattered, roofs were torn clean off, and whole houses were lifted off their foundations, carried away like leaves in a storm. It was as if the tornado had a mind of its own, zeroing in on the city with a vengeance that left no doubt in anyone's mind that this was no ordinary storm. Over 70 souls lost their lives that day, and hundreds more were injured. The streets were littered with debris, and the once proud buildings of Louisville lay in ruins. The devastation was so complete, so total, that folks began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was something to that curse the witches had laid down. After all, it was hard to ignore the coincidence. The storm had struck so soon after the tree was cut down, and with a fury that seemed almost personal. Now, here's where the story takes an even darker turn, one that folks around these parts don't forget easily. You see, as that tornado was ripping through Louisville, with the wind howling like 1,000 tormented souls, something mighty strange happened. Just as the storm reached its peak, a bolt of lightning, bright as the hand of God himself, came crashing down from the heavens and struck the very stump of that felled witch's tree. Witnesses who survived the storm claim they saw it plain as day. That lightning bolt hit the stump with a force like no other, splitting the remaining wood clean in two and sending sparks flying through the air. The ground around it sizzled and smoked, the earth itself charred black as coal. They say the air was thick with the smell of burnt wood and something else, something unnatural, like the very essence of the curse had been unleashed with that strike. But that ain't the end of it. Some folks swore on their lives that in the flash of that lightning they saw something. Figures, ghostly and faint, flickering in the storm's light, like the spirits of the witches themselves had been summoned by the power of the storm. The whole thing was over in an instant, but it left a mark, a powerful reminder that the curse was no idle threat. And wouldn't you know it, out of that very stump, split and scorched as it was, a new sapling began to grow. It pushed its way up from the blackened earth, twisted and gnarled like the tree before it, but with a certain defiance, as if it was born stronger, more determined to stand as a sentinel of the witch's wrath. This new tree, it seemed, had taken root not just in the soil but in the very heart of the legend, growing from the spot where the lightning had struck, a symbol of the power that still lingered in that cursed ground. From that day on, folks didn't just respect that tree. They feared it. They'd pass by with quick steps and hushed voices, some crossing themselves or whispering prayers to ward off the evil they believed was still there. The story of the lightning strike spread just as fast as the tale of the tornado, and together they became part of the same legend, a warning to all who might think they could mess with forces beyond their understanding. And so the witch's tree stood, not just as a remnant of the past, but as a living reminder that some things are better left alone. Today, the witch's tree still stands in Old Louisville, an imposing figure that seems to guard its secrets with an almost eerie patience. The tree has weathered many seasons, its twisted branches now more gnarled and resilient than ever. Locals and visitors alike regard it with a mix of reverence and wariness, acknowledging its place in the city's folklore. People from all walks of life come to see the tree, drawn by the tale of its curse and the storm that followed. It's become a kind of pilgrimage site for those intrigued by the supernatural and the curious alike. Around the tree, you'll find a collection of offerings: beads, ribbons, coins, and even handwritten notes. Folks leave these tokens as a way to pay respects to the past, to appease any lingering spirits, or simply to acknowledge the story that has become part of the local culture. On certain nights, particularly when the weather turns stormy or the wind picks up, you might see more people gathered around the tree. Some come to hold quiet vigils, some to leave their own tokens, and others just to feel the atmosphere of the place. It's not uncommon for people to share their own stories or experiences of the tree, adding to the rich tapestry of legends that surround it. The witch's tree has also become a symbol of the city's resilience and respect for its own history. Local festivals and events sometimes feature the tree, incorporating its story into the broader narrative of Louisville's heritage. School children learn about it in their history lessons, and it often makes an appearance in local ghost tours and folklore presentations. In the end, the witch's tree stands not just as a piece of living history, but as a testament to the enduring power of local legends and the respect they command. It reminds everyone who sees it that while the past might be dark and mysterious, it is also an integral part of the present, shaping the way we understand and appreciate the world around us. Well, that wraps up our tale of the witch's tree and the eerie events that followed. Now, I'm curious. Have you ever heard of this story before? What do you think or believe about the legend and the strange happenings around that old tree? We'd love to hear your thoughts and any experiences you might want to share. If you enjoyed this spooky story and want to hear more like it, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the Kentucky Melody YouTube channel. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more chilling tales your way. And be sure to join us again for more scary stories from Kentucky. We've got plenty more tales to keep you on the edge of your seat. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.